Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for that warm reception. It's lovely. So yeah, as Chris was saying, I'm Ric Cowley. I'm the editor of PocketGamer.biz, and we'll be leading this Fireside chat about the best practices in developing games, although I'm sure we'll go off on wild tangents to talk about what Supercell's doing in general. And with me, I will allow you to introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Timur, Haussila. I'm a game lead at Supercell. I've been working both on the kind of developing new games, Heyday, Boombeat, a bunch of unreleased titles, and then doing investments, and then currently working on Supercell ID.
Cool. So, sort of as a general sort of introduction, I thought maybe we could just talk about how was 2019 for Supercell in general?
2019 in general, it was a good year for us. Within the coming weeks, we'll be doing a bigger announcement, like usually, about the past year. But it was a good year. Like we saw some of the old titles growing, and like majority of them keeping their position. And of course, the game that we are still most excited about is Brawl Stars. That we see that it's still in the very early life cycle, and kind of the momentum that the game has and the potential that the game has is great, and that's keeping us the most excited.
Cool. But also 2019 was a year where you announced and released and then subsequently killed a game called Rush Wars.
Yes.
And you were quite open about the development of that and the reasons why. But so one of the things you said, as a company, not you personally, was that you couldn't make it as fun as you would like. So I kind of was wondering, as a sort of a general idea, what is fun? I guess, is a big question, but is there any sort of way, are there any processes that developers can use to sort of find that fun, or is it really just like you're playing it, you feel it, you know what it is when you have it?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it that we have processes. That, like maybe the past experience is something that relates to a process that helps us to create fun and test fun. Mm-hmm. So, as I said, like fun is an emotion. It's a feeling, and you can't really measure it with numbers. And on the early life cycle, when we are testing game internally, like fun is something that like you get people to talk about it. You get people to visit the game team. You get like people are playing the game on the corridors, and the Slack gets full of messages related to the game, and that's one sign of the fun. But of course, it doesn't mean that the game will become like major success. But like there are a lot of points that may give you good feedback, like if the game has the potential to become fun.
Mm-hmm. So it's sort of like it's a bit. Internally, you feel it's fun, and then also you're looking to the fans. I mean, I guess it's more important that players find it fun than you do as a studio.
Of course. Yeah, like first we test it internally, and then we release it to external players, and that's when we get the real data, right? The unbiased data. Because in our case, like there are many people who are excited to see the new release of Supercell, so it takes some time to validate the data. Mm-hmm. So we could easily say that we're going to skip the first few months data. That doesn't really work as a validation. But after that, like we start seeing some real data, and that shows like for the team if they are on the right track and what needs to be changed in the game. Right.
So what kind of data do you actually like take away from these games that you don't run with? So what I mean, you might not be able to talk about exact thresholds, but sort of like what's your KPIs, I guess, for like a game before it goes out to the wider release?
It depends on the stage. Like in the very early life cycle, when we're testing the game with the real users, is definitely the retention metrics, because that's what measures the fun. Yeah. And like that measures how engaged the players are, and we are really following on that. And then if we see issues there, then we try to dive deeper to see like what are the reasons, like in a battle game, like are people battling, and how people are using the different, let's say, troops in the game. Mm-hmm. Is the game? Are there some marks that the game is becoming maybe a bit too repetitive? That was the case with the past game.
Right. And just shifting gears completely a little bit. So obviously, Supercell has been phenomenally successful. There's no argument against that. But I guess kind of. Obviously, a lot of developers aren't going to achieve that level of success, but you've seen other developers. I remember you saying that you've been looking at other companies and investing and working with other companies in your own capacity. What do you think success means in general for other people? I don't know, because success for Supercell means it's got to be as big as its other games, but what do you sort of see as success for others, or
Yeah.
That's a broad, very big question.
The
It's fine if you can't answer it.
definition of success. I think it comes from the group or individual that's pursuing something. So if you're an indie developer and like what you pursue is a career in games as an independent developer, and you can make a living out of it. I see that as a success.
Yeah.
Like you're fulfilling something that you're pursuing. That's a success. Or if you're a smaller studio that wants to have fun and doesn't want to grow too much and wants to have a really strong DNA, like making something specific, and can make a living out of it, it's success.
Yeah.
But for us, like success again, it's based on what we want to be, and from the day one we wanted to craft something that can be played for years or decades and will be lasted forever, and that's kind of our benchmark.
Yeah. And is there anything that sort of developers can do to ensure that they're making their success? Is there something like they can do team structure-wise or in their development processes that you think are going to help ensure a success as a game? Or
I think like when you start making processes to ensure the success, that's the best way to kill the success in the long term. Maybe kind of the cornerstones for us is that like first of all we are making something that we like and we believe in. So we are passionate about games, and we are passionate about the players, and that the players enjoy the game, so the game is fun.
Yeah.
And of course the third one is maybe that we are passionate to do something that will last there for years. So we are not building experience that lasts for 2 or 3 sessions. So we are thinking of system that will be entertaining for decades.
Mm-hmm. And I guess in terms of development, because Supercell, obviously you have a unique structure to your development teams where you have your different cells, and it's developer-led rather than being led by management and that kind of thing. Do you think that's a model that other developers should be using, or is it something that like only you can do?
Definitely it's not something that only we can do, but it's a model made for us, for our developers, for the early employees, and then we'll be doing the recruitment based on that. But it's a good model, but it's a good model for us, but it's not a good model for everybody. Like there are different kind of individuals. Not everybody likes to get the huge responsibility over like everything in the game.
Yeah.
Some people want to be specialized in their smaller role and focusing on that and delivering tasks, and that's good. But they need a different kind of organization to support that. And there are examples of organizations with different structures succeeding for years. So our structure isn't the right one, but it's the right one for us, and it's the way how we want to work.
Is there any way developers can sort of identify what's going to work for them as a structure, or?
Maybe it's based on like how do you define yourself? Like, if as a developer you define that you're a game developer, and maybe your special skill is art. It means like you want to be doing a holistic game development, and the best environment for that is an environment that gives you a chance to be like independent and to be like making your own decisions.
Okay. So. Oh wow, I'm getting a very dry mouth. So. Obviously, your big thing that you've been working on this year that was announced towards the end of last year was the Supercell ID. And I was kind of wondering, like, because your background is in game leads, being on Boom Beach and Heyday and that kind of thing. Has your work in games informed any of the decisions behind how to build Supercell ID, or is it just come up as a completely new thing that you've just had to learn yourself and develop differently because it's a different world to making games, to making tools?
A bit of both. So I joined the team pretty recently, like a few months ago. So I think you haven't seen any of the kind of outcomes of my participation yet. But like from the games, what I have taken is that like really focus on the user. So it's a big system that we are developing gradually, but like we are thinking the player value first. So like thinking the experience similar to game development. And that's something that I've taken from the game development, but the team already had when they really started the development. And then, like, what makes it fun is what makes it different than game development is that it is a supportive system. It is like nobody downloads the game because it has Supercell ID.
Yeah.
So it is something that it needs to communicate the value for the player differently, like why to use it, like to save your account, and maybe to see our other games, and of course in the future to have other features.
And can you talk about because you joined recently, what plans you have for Supercell ID and how you're going to build it out as a service for Supercell in general?
Little by little, we are bringing some social features there because many players are playing multiple Supercell games, so it's natural that there's we will be supporting them a way to connect with their friends through different games. So if you're gaming a friend in game 1, you can be friends also in game 2 without any extra steps.
Yeah, cool. I have unfortunately blazed through all of my questions, so I'm sure the audience has a question for Supercell. There is a great opportunity to ask. So if anybody has anything, put your hand up. We do have a roaming mic. Oh my God, this is my worst nightmare. Let's ask my boss, Chris James.
No, there was somebody behind Chris.
Oh yeah, there's a person behind Chris. Yeah.
Hello. My question was about Supercell ID and if it's mainly a way of tracking your users and getting data more accurately, or if there are other motives behind it.
The primary reason for us was just actually because let's go back a bit. Biggest challenge that our users had with our games was losing their accounts. They were changing the devices, so that was the number one reason for us to develop it. So there's actually a place to securely store your data, your progression. So if you lose your device, it doesn't really matter because your account can still be connected to your email and you can retrieve it back. So that's a reason. Of course, it could be maybe possible to get more data, but we as a company it's hard to use data. And but in this case, the data is used just to connect you with your account and to make the game experience better and safer.
Any other questions? Yeah, go on, Chris.
I'm just going to ask you a question which is a bit broad about the market, so you might not want to answer, I don't know. But Supercell games obviously have been around for a fair few years now and are still dominating, which is great. I mean, great for Supercell. Fantastic live ops. There's lots of innovation all the time. How long do you think a mobile game could last? I mean, are we still going to see Clash Royale, Clash of Clans, Boom Beach, Heyday, or still being there in another 10 years? Is that the plan? I don't want to preempt a massive strategy thing, but nobody necessarily thought they'd last this long, these mobile games. We thought they'd be replaced beforehand.
Yeah, of course, our strategy is to make the games as good as possible. So definitely I see that the particular games that you were talking about will be alive in 10 years. I think in a few years it will be exciting to see that there will be players who have played these games for 10 years. And we don't see any signs that they will be churning out. And I think the games are actually becoming all the time more fun. So Live Ops has brought something new for the gamers. And they brought many players back to the game because the games feel fresh. So yeah, definitely in 10 years I see those games still being big.
One more question.
There's one from the audience.
One more quick one. Okay. This actually refers to a previous talk. One of the investors, I can't remember which talk it was, it might have been Annie, it might have been, so much data has been this morning, but there was a talk that showed that Gen Zers, the latest sort of generation, are engaging slightly less with mobile games than other mobile platforms, except Supercell are a notable exception for that, and they're still getting the same sort of retention to this new audience. Do you think there's any specific reason for that? Are you guys to kind of target, making sure you're relevant to that audience, or is it just, you just make the game, you not worry about that so much?
We just make a game.
So I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, but I could be I could be guessing the reasons behind it, but we don't know. You can't know it.
Okay.
So our focus really is on just making as good experience as possible, and of course it helps that we have players that are interested in our brand, so they get a good chance.
Yeah.
But other than that,
because I think the stuff you do with influencers, which I know is not your side of the business, is being very smart, and I think you have really pioneered a lot of the engagement with influencers, and I think that's really helping with this audience.
Of course.
Yeah.
There was another question. Yep, just over there.
So Supercell's made a lot of great games, and a lot of them totally new ideas often, or crosses from other top games from other platforms. What tips would you give to any studio trying to do a brand new IP? How to think about those new ideas and kind of evaluate them at the very beginning before any code has happened?
I think first thing is that it takes time, so you need to be prepared for like spending time and of course some money for it. I don't know if you've heard any stories about Brawl Stars, but like that game took years to develop. There were different teams, different iterations, different mechanics there. Like people, the team was really like on the exploration to do that. And a similar thing has happened with many of our other games. So if you want to be doing something new, it takes longer, and you need to be very open to learn. And you shouldn't take anything for granted, even the existing mechanics. But like, be critical and learn.
Okay, I believe we're out of time. Yeah, so I would like to just have a round of applause for Timur. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Rick.
And, thank you very much.